I never believed in Jinn until I met one. I wish I never had. It started on an ordinary night in my village, a quiet, forgotten place on the outskirts of civilization. The kind of place where darkness stretches endlessly, and the silence is so heavy that you can hear your own heartbeat. My name is Amir, and I was a fool to ignore the warnings, a fool to mock the stories of my ancestors. And now I am haunted. It began with a dare. 3 of us sat around an old oil lamp, its dim glow flickering against the cracked mud walls of my friend Kareem's house. It was past midnight, the time when shadows move without reason and the wind carries whispers. "There's an old house in the hills," Kareem said, his voice low. "Abandoned for decades. They say a Jinn lives there." "A Jinn?" I scoffed, shaking my head. "You actually believe that nonsense?" His cousin, Farid, smirked. "Are you scared, Amir?" "Of course not." "Then prove it." Kareem grinned. "Spend an hour in the house alone. If nothing happens, we'll admit you're right." I should have walked away. I should have refused. But I was young, reckless, and eager to prove my bravery. So I agreed. The old house stood like a corpse in the moonlight, its wooden frame rotting, its windows shattered. A single door, hanging loosely on rusted hinges, creaked as the wind whispered through it. I hesitated. The moment I stepped inside, a strange heaviness settled over me. The air was thick, suffocating. Dust hung in the air like ghosts. The floorboards groaned beneath my feet as I walked into the main hall. The walls were covered in dark stains, as if something had seeped into the wood long ago. Then I heard it, a whisper, faint, indistinct, coming from deeper inside the house. I swallowed hard. "It's just the wind," I muttered to myself. But the wind doesn't whisper names. "Amir," I froze. My name. It had spoken my name. Every instinct screamed at me to run. But my pride held me in place. I stepped forward. The whisper came again. Closer. "Why did you come?" The voice was low, almost seductive, curling around me like smoke. My mouth was dry. My hands shook. Then, a breath on the back of my neck. I spun around. Nothing was there. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to calm down. I needed to last an hour. I pulled out my phone to check the time. 2:37 a.m. 23 more minutes. The whispering had stopped, but something felt different. The air was colder now. The darkness seemed thicker. And then I saw it. In the farthest corner of the room, a shadow darker than the rest. It wasn't moving, but I had the sickening feeling that it was watching me. I blinked, and suddenly it was closer, a shape vaguely human but wrong. I stepped back. My heart pounded against my ribs. "Who's there?" I demanded. No response. Then it moved, not like a person, but like smoke, shifting unnaturally, pouring forward. I ran, but as I turned, something grabbed my wrist. A hand, ice cold, impossibly strong. I screamed and yanked away, stumbling toward the exit. The door slammed shut in front of me. I was trapped. The room began to change. The walls seemed to stretch, the ceiling growing higher. The air was filled with the scent of burning wood and something else. Something rotten. And then I saw it. The Jinn. It stood where the shadow had been, tall and thin, its face hidden beneath a dark veil. Its body was covered in tattered robes that moved as if alive. It didn't walk toward me. It glided. My breath came in gasps. My body refused to move. Then it spoke. "You called me." Its voice was 1,000 voices layered together, male and female, old and young. I shook my head violently. "No, I didn't, I swear." It laughed, a sound like cracking bones. "Liar." The Jinn raised a clawed hand. The room began to spin. Shadows stretched toward me, twisting around my limbs. My skin burned where they touched. It was pulling me into the darkness. I screamed. A loud crash filled the room. Suddenly, the Jinn froze. The shadows that had been wrapping around my body recoiled, hissing like steam meeting fire. Somewhere in the darkness, I heard a voice, but not the Jinn's. A whisper, barely audible at first, but growing stronger. Run. I didn't need to be told twice. I turned and lunged for the door, yanking at the handle. It wouldn't budge. My hands trembled as I pulled again, harder this time. Behind me, the Jinn let out a low, guttural growl. The air became thick and hot, suffocating. The whisper came again, more urgent. Run! I slammed my body against the door. It didn't move. A sharp, ice-cold hand gripped my shoulder. My muscles locked in place, my breath stuck in my throat. I felt claws press into my skin, not breaking it, but holding me still. Then came the voice. Not a whisper this time, a growl deep and ancient. You cannot leave. Terror surged through me. My mouth opened, but no scream came out. The Jinn's grip tightened. A terrible cold spread through my body, sinking into my bones. My vision blurred, my mind spiraling into a dark abyss. Then, the whispering voice shouted something in a language I didn't understand. The Jinn shrieked. The grip on my shoulder released, and I fell forward. The door burst open. I scrambled out into the night, gasping, choking on the fresh air. My legs barely worked as I ran, stumbling, falling, getting back up. I didn't look back. I don't remember how I got home. I only remember the silence that followed me. I locked my bedroom door that night. I didn't sleep. Every shadow in the room felt alive. At dawn, I finally dared to look at my shoulder in the mirror. My skin was bruised black and blue, and at the center of the bruise there was a handprint, too large to be human, and I swear to God it was still ice cold. That was the night I learned something terrifying. Jinn don't just haunt houses. They haunt people. And this one? It wasn't done with me.